Exactly. So
And
I just think it's a very strong draft class, and I think in time it will prove me correct. Now, maybe I'll be wrong, and I'll have egg on my face for saying this, but I truly believe that. I truly, truly, truly believe it. So,
Well, you won't be the only one wearing egg because I think Dave and I 100% back you with that sentiment, and I think Dave made a good point that backing on your point, I think you could say that for the last two drafts now, going back to last year, seeing what was drafted, where they are, and how they did make the team, and it's a change in the philosophy and what we've seen, and I think it's going to make a difference in what we see in results in the win and loss column this season. And again, this game tonight, guys, I don't, just getting to closer to wrapping it up and some final thoughts, but this game tonight was pretty freaking ugly to me. I wasn't really impressed with the offense and the way they were. The offensive line, Jenkins did great. If you didn't notice, Taylor got a lot more snaps with the second team unit, whereas Jenkins, him and Jenkins split equal snaps on first team, whereas Jenkins played more center on second team because they don't have a lot of centers. Did really well. Taylor struggled. He had some okay plays and some good plays. Jenkins is just solid. He's either just solid or he's excelling. He doesn't seem to have a lot of negative plays, and I know people are going to say, well, he had that holding call, but even the guy said, geez, he blocked the guy so well, I think they thought that he was holding him because I didn't see the hold there.
I watched those plays. I rewound them. The guys, he never had his hands even on the outside of the pads. It was just the angle the guy was getting blocked at. That's all it was.
Right, he locked his guy up so efficiently, the officials are like, oh, that rookie can't be blocking that guy that well. He's got to be holding. Throw the flag. So, I mean, I didn't see it either when I watched it begin, Dave. But I mean,
I rewound it. It he had him at a diagonal angle, so it looked like he was turning him, but he fully had his hands underneath the shoulder pads with no fingers clenching at all. So, plus tonight, the Zebras kind of pissed me off on a couple plays too. The Jenkins. Y'all know the deep pass play that happened to a receiver named Wesley, and LaFleur threw the challenge flag for the offensive pass interference? That should have been overturned because you clearly saw his arm go full extend and push off of, who was it? Rouse. And the refs were really bad tonight. It didn't help the fact they were throwing a flag about every other three plays.
One guy I want to bring up real quick is someone that we didn't bring up last week, and I was kicking myself after we got off the pod. But and I want to hear your guys' thoughts. And tonight it was kind of up and down, but for the most part, I keep hearing his name making plays, and it's Chandon Sullivan.
Yes, yeah, I've been seeing him.
He just makes plays in practice, and I hear it all the time. Another interception by him, but tonight he was a little. I don't know. I think he was a little inconsistent. Obviously, it's too hard without watching. He
gave up a 26 or 27-yard touchdown, but that I think was a learning moment for him. He tried to jump the route and take the ball for an interception.
He got excited and he gave up his leverage to attack the ball. Misread where the ball was, and because he gave up his leverage to attack the ball, he ended up and he missed it. He gave up the touchdown.
If he had stayed where he was instead of jumping it, he would have had a pass defended, and Ravens wouldn't have had a touchdown.
Right.
But I'm not basing it just on tonight's game, though.
Exactly.
No, I know. I got you. His name does pop, though.
I'm not going to but even on that play, Ryan, I think as from us playing DB, that's the life of a DB. Like, he's going to do that, and like 3 out of 5 times he does that, he's going to end up picking the ball off. The other 2, he misses it, and that happens. And I'm sorry, I don't downgrade DBs for that because guess what? We've seen DBs that play the perfect position and don't take those risks, and they still don't knock the ball down, and the receiver still catches it. I would, as for my defensive backs, I want risk-reward guys. I want the guy, and I want him to be talented enough where the risk-reward pays off 75% of the time or better, and I can live with the other parts when it doesn't, okay? every other corner I've seen just play that position. I don't know how you feel about this from your DB experience, Ryan. You end up dying the death of 1,000 cuts. Because a good quarterback will beat perfect coverage every time. And so if you're not willing to take risks, you're never going to shut quarterbacks and receivers down just being in position all the time. A quarterback can beat that if he's got any worth his grain of salt as far as being in the NFL.
In the NFL, yeah, I agree. But there is something to be said about always being in the right position at the right time as a DB. But
you have
in the
to
NFL,
do both.
there's more than that in the NFL because of the way that quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers can pinpoint that ball and the accuracy and where they're placing that thing. So I get that. You got to, in order to make plays, in order to have turnovers, there is a little bit of a risk there. I mean, all the greats that you think of, like in terms of defensive backs, cornerbacks in history that have a lot of interceptions, they took those risks. But they knew when to take those risks. That's the difference. That's the key. They were in the position to be able to take those risks in the first place. And so, but yeah, that was just a name I wanted to bring up because we haven't talked about him, and I wanted to talk about him last week, and then I forgot to bring his name up.
No, that's totally awesome because he does deserve to be talked about because he is playing well. I think he's deserved a shot at bumping up in a preseason game now and playing with the upper echelon units to see if he can still do that. And I didn't mean to make it sound like I don't believe in positioning because if you're not in the correct position, guys, don't get me wrong, I play DB. Like, positioning is first because if you're not in the correct position, you can't get out of position to take the risk because you're just beat and then there's no risk to be taken because there's, the guy's open. So don't get me wrong, and I know Ryan didn't take it wrong, but for the listeners out there, you have to be able to have the good position first. You have to have your good coverage in order to be able to take risks, just to be clear. So that is the number one most important. But secondly, even if you're in position, all I was saying is if you're not willing to give up that position to take risks, you're going to end up dying the death of 1,000 cuts when it comes to NFL receivers and quarterbacks. I guess that's all I was saying for the listeners out there.
Yep.
So I got a pair of guys I want to bring up as well that I've been reading, they haven't been getting a lot of love tonight, but I got to say it. Our safeties, man. Amos, for one, the hit he put on that Nick Boyle, the tight end that tried to hurdle him and just pile drived him, it brings that nasty factor, plus with Brown on the edge as well. But what Jay was talking about earlier, it brings that edginess and that nickname why he is known as Smash from playing with the Bears before. And also, too, if you noticed, whenever Darnell Savage was playing, there was no throws being thrown to the middle of the field. They were all going on the outside.
Well, and if you notice, the one thing that we talked about, and I'm sure it hadn't been prevalent because nobody had gotten to see him play in a game, he absolutely has the range and closing speed you want from a free safety. And what I mean by range and closing speed, it's not just straight up. Like, there was a perfect example. He was playing, I believe they were in a dollar or quarters coverage, and he basically had a receiver running a 9 route, right? And he picks him up, and the guy was running pretty fast. He didn't anticipate him quite right when he turned to run with him. The receiver has 2 steps on him. Well, he goes to locates the ball, and while he's got his head turned, he accelerates and ends up breaking the pass up when he was 2 or 3 steps behind. That's what I talk about when you want a free safety. That's range and closing speed. That quarterback essentially got baited into throwing that ball just so he could break it up. Because he even though he made an initial mistake, he could have, a young player you would normally see would just make up that right away. But this is where the savviness that we hear the veterans talk about, even though he knew he made a mistake, he was confident, knew he could make that up. He let the quarterback believe he was beat just so he could make the play. That's that's next level on its own, because a lot of young players will just turn around, and they'll overrun, they'll get pass interference because they're so zealous about trying to just catch the receiver that they end up overrunning and running into him. He did the exact perfect thing there. He baited the quarterback, used his closing speed, swatted the breakup. It was absolutely what we have not had as a free safety in Green Bay, and it's just beauty to my eyes to watch something like that. It's very Nick Collins-esque, and I don't mean to paint such a large picture for him or shoes for him to fill, but
I will.
It
will.
Reminds me of Nick Collins.
He reminds me of Earl Thomas coming out. Like I said that on Twitter multiple times. I said his college tape reminds me of Earl Thomas, and I'm going to stick with that. That's one of the reasons why I think this is going to be one of their best drafts ever, is because of guys like Darnell Savage. It just sucks because he hasn't been practicing. He got delayed because of the stupid wisdom teeth thing. But I'm telling you, that guy is going to be a star. He's going to be a stud. I have full faith in Darnell Savage. So, yes, I agree with you.
A lot of older DBs in the DB room, when they go through tape or they go in there to do their own little mini practices, they've already said that Savage has command of the room because he's the one who's going to be calling the audibles and the plays back there and the coverage adjustments. And they said for him to come in and do that as a rookie, that the last time they saw that was when they saw with Nick Collins. They mentioned his name because of the effect he had there. And that's what Tremont said about him.
Just wait till he gets up to full speed. He's a rookie, barely has practiced in training camp to this point.
He looked good tonight. He couldn't. No one would even throw the ball near him because of what Jay said. The range and the speed this kid has and the IQ. That's my biggest thing with him. He has a humongous football IQ, and
I think that's what's going to put him over the edge as a rookie. Look, we've seen 1,000 rookies come into this league that are just as athletically talented. What makes Savage such a stud is what we've heard about him. It's his football acumen, his football mind, his football IQ.
His instincts.
And his football instincts. The things that young players have to be able to do on their own, or things that you can't coach, you either are or you aren't. He has all of those things. And I don't know about you, Ryan. I'm sure you'll say this, but because we didn't talk back then, he was mine and Dave's number one defensive back in the entire draft. And the fact that he was the first defensive back drafted in the entire draft, and we drafted him, couldn't make me any more happier. But it just there's nothing that shows that this kid was not worth giving up 2 4th-round picks and to go up, and the draft capital that was given up to go get him is already paid for. He doesn't even have to really do anything else to me to prove that it was worth going to get him, okay? Because it is beautiful to watch. Safety play has not been like this in Green Bay in years, and I think it's, at the end of the day, it's going to make the difference in how this whole defense gets to operate as a unit because of the back end.
Yep, I was a huge fan. I was ecstatic when we drafted him. I went nuts when I was watching it. The only other safety or DB I liked relatively close to him was Juan Thornhill, who I think is actually going to be pretty good too. But Savage to me was the best. I'm really excited we have him. So I'm excited to see him once he's like fully up to speed and really into the swing of the defense. I think he's going to make some plays. So. The other, real quick, I just want to go speed around on some other things that I just made some notes as I was watching. To me, Darren Hall, better running back than Trey Carson. I think he needs to get some run with at least the second team to get some better opportunities. But I think Darren Hall, to me, is a better running back if they're looking at trying to keep a fourth running back outside of the two Williams and Aaron Jones. Give Darren Hall some love. I think he's got more burst, more juice. I like him a lot. And then also, what was I going to say? Tonight, man, missed tackles and penalties.
Yes, the tackling.
the missed tackles, man, we got to fix that. 'Cause that's 2 weeks in a row where missed tackles were just, it was ugly. It was, and I'm giving Darnell Savage a lot of love here, but even he made,